Today marks the 10th anniversary to the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Jesus fucking Christ, I'm so old. The game was released on November 11th, 2011, which also shares the same release date with LEGO Harry Potter, years 5 to 7, and my date of birth. I was born on November 11th, 1998. I am now 23. The game was praised by critics and audiences alike, claiming that it was the greatest game of that year. I remember when I got myself into that game. My cousin Daniel was playing it on PS3, and at the time I wasn't that interested in it. It wasn't until late 2013 when I started playing Skyrim, and for a good reason. Yep. However, this good reason led me to be really fascinated with the lore and world building that was the Elder Scrolls franchise. During high school years, I would start up my shitty Lenovo laptop my uncle gave me for 3D purposes to play Skyrim in the lowest quality possible. Eventually, I would replace it with a gaming laptop, and later, a powerful desktop. The year is now 2021. Skyrim is now a game that people groan at because we got Skyrim Game of the Year Edition, then Skyrim Special Edition, then Skyrim on Nintendo Switch, Skyrim on VR, Skyrim on Amazon Echo, Skyrim skin for Smash, and finally Skyrim Anniversary Edition for next-gen consoles! We can't escape Skyrim! But looking all of that aside, is it still a fun game to play even with the re-releases that keep on getting shout out by good old Todd the Waz? Well, you're watching my video, so let's get into it, shall we? To start, let's begin with the visuals. The visuals in Skyrim are very nice. The graphics and shaders in the game are actually nicely done. The models and textures are also really nicely done. This includes amount of vertices, choice of design, and how nice the textures look. With my PC I built last winter without any shader mods installed, I'm able to see a lot of details on some of the textures for every piece of food, weapons, nature, architecture, clothing, and armor, etc. For a game that was released in 2011 with games such as Dead Space 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, and Portal 2, that's pretty impressive. I know sometimes games don't need to be perfect with shaders, graphics, or whatever. Sometimes it can be gameplay like Super Mario Galaxy, or sometimes it's storytelling like Mass Effect 2. Since 1994, they established Skyrim and the lore of Skyrim being based on Norse culture. They did a great job with taking inspiration and source material from that. The particles are very nice to look at, especially in dungeons or interior areas as they show off more color. I like how if you strike your opponents with melee weapons, blood will appear on the weapons. The sound design is very beautiful for spells and swords. It helps make it feel satisfying to just use, especially the restoration-based spells. They make some of the most beautiful sound effects I heard. The voice acting ranges from mediocre at best to outstanding, but we'll get to that in the next part. The game has a night and day feature, something that doesn't need to be addressed, but I feel like it should be. Sometimes auroras will illuminate in the night skies, and it's very colorful to look at. There are areas that will either rain or snow depending on the climate of that area, which does help add atmosphere to the game. The soundtrack by Jeremy Soule is very wonderful to listen to. It adds a lot to the atmosphere of Skyrim. The chorus in most of the tracks are very chilling. It helps capture that Norse feeling. God of War 2018 did a similar thing with their soundtrack as well. I swear, if the upcoming Elder Scrolls 6 game takes place in Hammerfell and it has Middle Eastern music, that would be really awesome. Speaking of atmosphere, not only do you get to listen to official tracks, you will also listen to what fans dub atmosphere music. They're unreleased pieces of ambient music that would occasionally be heard as you play the game. The tracks are very mesmerizing and beautiful to listen to. Combine that with the environment sound effects you would hear, such as wind swishing, river flowing, or birds singing, and you'll feel like your brain is turned off while you're awake. A little interesting thing worth pointing out is that one of the glacial-themed atmosphere tracks feel very reminiscent to Lugia's song from the second Pokemon movie. I personally think it's a nice touch. The scenery and landscapes are very beautiful to look at, from giant icy mountains to wide forests, cities with giant castles, ancient structures, or glacial areas. Out of all the landscapes I like the most has to be Sovngarde. It's the most gorgeous out of them all. Very colorful and vibrant. And the soundtrack is really good in there. The animation isn't that great in my opinion. Probably the least best out of them all has got to be the combat animation. It just feels a bit unsatisfying to look at. The kill moves are pretty fun to watch though, I'll give it that, but it only happens on random as opposed to the VATS system from the Fallout games after Fallout 3. The facial animations aren't that great on human NPCs. They look pretty bad, and most of the time they're out of sync with the audio. The expressions on their faces also don't help as well. It feels like there's barely any expressions. Hell, even Half-Life 2 had better facial expressions, in my opinion. Equipment does not break, unlike in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, where it deteriorates if used too many times. Something I liked about Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is that your equipment can break down to the point where you can't use it, but you can get them fixed using a blacksmith hammer. You also can't fix enchanted items until you reach a certain level. Skyrim got rid of that feature. Equipment doesn't break. But hey, at least it's not a gameplay mechanic that destroys your item if you use it too much. The load times can take up a long time, or sometimes they'll stay loading for the rest of time. But hey, at least you get these nice models to look at and lore facts to keep you interested. Yeehaw. Oh, and let's not forget about the bugs and glitches that happen in this game. Just because I said a lot of nice things about Skyrim doesn't mean it's automatically good. There used to be a lot of them, but they got later patched. But just like real bugs, they always find a way to get into your game. Some of them are pretty funny, like the ice form or flying horse glitches that happen on release. And some are game breaking in a good way. A bug I remembered that happened was when I was doing a quest to find the Staff of Magnus, and when I fought the baddie who had it, I received 2 Staffs of Magnus instead of 1. There's a bug that can cause your game to crash if you try and use the Conjure Bound Sword spell. However, from my recollection, this only happens via modding. Then there are bugs where you fall out of the world. Another bug I remember is the one where if you fight a dragon, it doesn't burn away into a skeleton after you kill it like dragons usually would in this game. The AI in this game isn't that great as well. It just feels, well, kinda meh. Sometimes NPCs just work, but sometimes they don't. Basically saying there are bugs and glitches throughout the game. But hey, with modding, players are able to fix these glitches. At the end of the day, if Bethesda doesn't have time to fix their games, just let their community fix it for them. Other than that, that's really all I have to say about visual-wise. It's visually nice, the soundtrack is about on par with something Hans Zimmer would score, like The Prince of Egypt, despite that movie taking place in the Middle East. Let's talk about gameplay elements revolving around the story and the story itself, if those are the proper terms to use, that is. Alright, let's do this. The story of Skyrim begins with you waking up in a prison carriage. A guy next to you lets you know that you're finally awake.
Hey, you. Finally awake.
And tells you why you're in the carriage. As the carriage keeps rolling, you'll begin to realize where you're being sent to. You and your fellow prisoners head to a town called Helgen to die. One of the prisoners doesn't want to die and tries to flee, and he dies anyway. You are now given a question to answer. That question being,
Who are you?
this is the part where you create your character. You can play as a Nord, Imperial, Breton, Redguard, or if you don't want to be a stupid human, you can play as a High Elf, a Wood Elf, Dark Elf, Orc, or if you don't want to play as a Will Ferrell, you can play as a Khajiit or an Argonian. However, if you think that playing as a furry or a lizard man isn't cool, you can play as a fucking biotic! The character creation menu lets you choose on how you want your character to look. You can change eyes, hair color, skin tone. There's a slider where you can change up the face a bit, add scars, or war paint. Once you create your character, you're still sentenced for death. But the main antagonist, Alduin, played by Daniel Riordan, comes out of nowhere and Deus Ex Machinas your execution, while also destroying Helgen. You and your fellow prisoners get out of Helgen. As you escape Helgen, the game gives you your first quest. It teaches you how to play the game, get used to the controls, that sort of thing. Once you escape the destroyed Helgen, this is where your journey begins. You can basically do anything you want in the land of Skyrim. You can continue with the main quest, or you can go exploring new places, assault people in towns, complete side quests, and earn items, weapons, and followers that can help you. Aside from the main quest line, you can also do other quest lines for guilds such as the Companions, the College of Winterhold, the Thieves Guild, and the Dark Brotherhood. As you play the game, your skills will begin to level up. As your skills increase, you will level up. Once you level up, you're given a choice to increase your health, your magic power, or your stamina, as well as given a skill point to spend on your skills. I also like the level screen. Every skill is represented as a constellation, and every constellation is in some sort of colored nebula. Green for assassin-based skills, orange for warrior-based skills, and blue for mage-based skills. The level up music also makes it feel like you're becoming better. As you progress throughout the game, you'll get stronger armor and weapons to use, such as glass, elven, and the fan favorite, Daedric armor. However, you won't get stronger spells to use because you would have to level up your skills in order to do that. I personally think it's a fair trade. A lot of the unique items are really fun to use. You can get these items by completing quests. Probably my favorite I love using the most is the Daedric artifact called Dawnbreaker. This weapon has a really amazing design. The damage isn't too strong, but it is in the middle. It has an enchantment where it can create an explosion that can scare undead enemies. If you kill an undead enemy with it, that is. It's not just one of my favorite swords in Skyrim, mind you. It's one of my favorite swords in general. Next to the Sword of Gryffindor from Harry Potter and the exotic blade from the game Legend of the Void. Yeah, you probably never heard of that game. The other unique items are also very helpful as well. There's the Ring of Namira, which can let you feed on dead enemies. Gross? Yeah. Useful? Yep.
Gobble, 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 gobble.
There's the Spellbreaker, which is a shield that can generate a ward that can protect the player very easily. There's the Ebony Mail, a piece of armor that can poison nearby enemies if they get close to you. Then there's the Wabbajack, which is a staff that has unpredictable effects. Is it useful? No. Is it fun to use? Yeah. In Skyrim, as you complete quests, you'll be awarded with followers that can help you out. The most notable is Lydia, played by Colleen Delany, in which there is a bug for some reason. She says this. Yeah, Lydia is not the best follower in my opinion. She's basically the McDonald's of Skyrim followers. She's not great, but she's always there for you in desperate needs. There's Cicero, played by Andy Morris.
Let's kill someone!
A jester who's lost his sanity and devotes his life into killing people while serving the Night Mother in the Dark Brotherhood questline. The dialogue is very well written. Andy Morris's performance for this character is just really funny to listen to.
Now you will die. Ah! Gotcha! Oh, listener, you should see the look on your face.
There are a lot of people that seem to love this character because I still get comments on my Cicero quotes and dialogue video I made 6 years ago. Out of all of the followers I like base game wise, it's gotta be Erender, played by Keither how do I pronounce this name? Zarabajka? He's a priest of Mara who before was a Daedric cultist that he and his friends resided in a tower. Orcs started to raid the tower and he released this powerful sleeping gas. As he was releasing the gas, he ran away in fear. A few years later, he's still tormented by his past actions. A priest of Mara helped him cope with his past and he decided to become a priest to right his wrongs. I also like him because he's someone I'm sure a lot of people could relate to. While we're on the subject of NPCs, let's talk about the ones that feel important in the story. I guess. There are a lot of characters I really like and also hate in terms of writing and voice acting. Christopher Plummer, who is known for being in films such as Pixar's Up, Knives Out, and Sound of Music, plays as Arnir. His character reminds me a lot of Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter, which funny enough, Michael Gambon, the actor for Dumbledore, would later be in Elder Scrolls Online. Arnir's writing is really nicely done. I love the performance Christopher Plummer did for his character. He really feels like the old mentor character in a hero's journey.
Kinnereth has placed the voice of wisdom within you, Dragonborn. All you need to do is learn to listen to it, and your path will be clear.
Max von Sydow, who is known for his role in Game of Thrones and Star Wars 7, plays as Esbern, while Joanne Allen plays as Delphine. I start to like them, but then as time goes by, they start to become assholes, and then I start to hate them because of this one quest. Sheogorath and Hermaeus Mora are played by Wes Johnson. Sheogorath's writing is weird. He says the most randomest things, he loves cheese, and I and many of you love him because of that. Hermaeus Mora talks really slow that I'm sure a lot of people fell asleep because of him. I'll talk more about him in the DLCs. Meridia, played by Jean Gilpin, is also another favorite because holy shit, that voice acting is just beautiful. It resonates with her personality. Whoever at Bethesda chose her to voice act this character chose very wisely. Out of all the characters I like the most is Paarthurnax. His writing is really great and he does share some important words of wisdom. Seriously, I feel like this dialogue is something you would hear on an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra.
What is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort?
But probably the craziest thing about this character to this day, in my opinion, is the fact that he's played by Charles Martinet, who voices fucking Super Mario. I find it so crazy because, well, it's fucking Super Mario. How do you go from a stereotypical Italian plumber to an elderly dragon whose dialogue feels like it could rival Avatar: The Last Airbender? Oh yeah, the kids in this game. Fuck those dumbass kids. They can't even die. Then again, that would be too much.
Another wanderer, here to lick my father's boots. Good job. Another wanderer, here to lick my father's boots. Good job. Another wanderer, here to lick my father's boots. Get away!
Oh yeah, and there's also this guy. Fuck this guy in particular. Fuck him to hell. Fuck him to oblivion. The guards in this game aren't great as well. The guards in Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion are a lot more threatening than the ones in Skyrim.
Do some hunting. Avoid brittle by the wood of the Jarl. Stop right there.
Stop right there, criminal scum! Nobody breaks the law on my watch. I'm confiscating your stolen goods. Now, then pay with your blood.
But the game does find a way to make them feel threatening. One time I assaulted a guard in Riften, and then a swarm of guards came out of nowhere and attacked me. True story. Not only that, the dialogue is just not fun to listen to. Okay, maybe most of the time, but it just sounds like they just want to fucking die. In Skyrim, you also have the power known as the Thuum. With the Thuum, you can control the weather, blast a wave of fire or ice, disarm your opponents, blast them away with a Fusro Damim, become invulnerable for a while. In order to use these powers, you'll have to find them in areas that contain what is known as a Ward of Power, and you will need to slay dragons to gain their souls to spend on these wards of powers. Sounds hard, right? Well, if you're playing the main quest and you learn from the Greybeards, they can help you find the wards of power. So, not really. Aside from shouts you can also use powers as well. Depending on what race you are, you can start off with a power. For example, High Elves are given by default a power that can let you regenerate magicka completely. There are also stone pillars that you can find across the map that give you special powers as well, such as the Shadow Stone, which is my favorite because it lets you go into a cloaking for 1 minute. It's useful if you want to escape enemies or sneak by them. You can also turn into a werewolf, but that's given to you when you play the Companion's quest line. Since this is a medieval RPG game, there are dungeons that you can explore. You'll find dragon crypts where you'll fight undead warriors known as Draugr, Dwemer cities that were mysteriously abandoned, and what's left are hostile dwarven machines, and caves that falmers and bug-like creatures known as Karis reside in. Before becoming these golem creatures, the falmer were actually snow elves, just like the other elves, but they were forced out of their land by the Nords, and started to adapt into caves. Aside from that, you also fight bandits, and I have a problem with them because, by the great beings, there are so many bandits. How are there so many bandits? Then there's also the Forsworn, which there's a small questline around them, where you can kill them or you can help them escape some mine. Speaking of which, there's also another questline which revolves around the Civil War that's taking place in Skyrim. It's why you are a prisoner in the carriage when you start a new game. You can either side with the Imperials or the Stormcloaks. I haven't completed the Civil War questline because I really don't know who to side with. People are saying Stormcloaks, but others are saying Imperials. Like, who fucking cares? Politics are fucking dumb sometimes. There's racism in the game, such as Dark Elves being harassed by Nords in Windhelm, Nords thinking that they are the superior race, some High Elves Dominion thinking that elves are better than men. Huh, elf supremacy. That is the fucking dumbest thing I ever said. If you play as an orc, the guards will dismiss you as just an orc rather than being called Dragonborn. It sounds like it doesn't matter, but it does because it helps bring a message that racism will always exist, even in a fantasy world like the Elder Scrolls, or in a futuristic society like the Mass Effect trilogy. The ending to Elder Scrolls is... oh wait, JK, there is no ending. Instead, there's a final boss fight in Sovereign Guard where you fight Alduin, though you can easily defeat him if you have Mehrunes' Razor because of how OP the effect is. Like, you can just slay so many people with the Razor and at some point instantly kill them. Well, that's all I have to say about Skyrim in terms of story-based elements. A lot of things I really liked about the story-based things of Skyrim, and some things I don't like about it. But wait, there's more! Let's talk about the DLCs of Skyrim. The DLCs of Skyrim has a lot to offer, such as new main quest lines to try out, stuff you can do, and new places to explore. Let's start off with the first DLC, that being Dawnguard. This DLC is about joining a vampire hate group, but as you progress the first quest, you have the option of being a vampire and joining the Dawnguard hate group. Yeah. If you choose to become a vampire, you get the ability to become a vampire lord, which grants you a lot of powers you can use. The questline is very fun. Both sides will reward you with different items depending on what you are. They both follow the same story. The story being finding this MacGuffin known as Ariel's bow and using it for something. The DLC also has new worlds to explore, that being the Soul Cairn and the Forgotten Vale. They're both breathtaking in some way, shape, or form, while also having new tracks playing. The Soul Cairn is spooky, but uses a lot of purple, pink, and blue colors. The landscape feels desolate. The castles are in complete ruins, and there are piles of skeleton bodies everywhere. The Forgotten Vale is a very big land filled with so much glaciers. In the Vale is the fortress where the snow elves used to reside. While it is beautiful, it is also really tedious to go through just to get to the fortress due to its wide open glacial land to walk across. Dawnguard introduces a new weapon set, that being Dragonbone. In the base game, the strongest armor you could get was Dragonbone armor and Dragon Scale armor, but this DLC now includes Dragonbone weapons. It's kinda dumb because they could have introduced that in the base game, but whatever. Speaking of, more armor sets are also available to use, such as the Dawnguard armor. Crossbows are introduced in the game as well, and I find them useful. Just lock, load, and let it do the rest. Though there are two versions of it, a standard version and a Dwarven version. Well, that's dumb. Oh, to add insult to injury, they made more crossbows, but it's a Creation Club thing. You know, paid mods that Bethesda claims that are not paid mods. Well, that's fucking dumb. The DLC also introduces new companions, and also one of my favorite out of them all, Serana, played by Laura Bailey, who is also the same voice actor for Lucina in Fire Emblem Awakening.
My name is Marth.
And you know what's sad about this? Back then, when I think of Laura Bailey, the first thing that comes to my mind is Serana. But nowadays, when I think of Laura Bailey, I think of fucking Lucina. Thanks Nintendo for nothing. Aside from Serana later being an overused joke, she's unique mainly because she's a vampire. She has a lot of traits that are interesting, such as using a vampire draining spell, she can't be healed, and she's able to resist frost attacks.
Where'd you come from? Done and done.
There are new creatures introduced to the game as well, such as frost giants, gargoyles, bone men, mistmen, or wraithmen, as well as also new spells such as sunfire or necromantic healing. There are 3 new shouts to learn as well, one of them being Soul Tear. I love this shout a lot. The noise it makes is amazing. The particles are beautiful, and it's very convenient to use because it does a lot of damage and pierces through enemies. There's also a boss fight in the end where you fight the vampire lord and Serana's daddy, Lord Harkin, played by Roger Jackson. The DLC's Easter egg song is... oh, wait, wrong video, shit. The next DLC that came out is Hearthstone. This DLC lets you build a house so you can live in it as opposed to buying a house in one of the cities. I haven't started playing this DLC mainly because I want to finish everything on my Toa character's game. This house building feature in the DLC would presumably be improved in Bethesda's later game, Fallout 4, with more variety and customization. The last DLC is Dragonborn. In this, you travel to Solstheim, a region that is between both Skyrim and Morrowind. This region was also in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind's DLC known as Blood Moon. The main questline of Dragonborn is about the first Dragonborn Mirak, played by Peter Jessup. He's trying to return to Solstheim to take over the land. You'll find 4 new shouts to use, including one that can let you ride on a dragon. There's also a shout that can summon a cyclone. It's pretty awesome. Aside from new shouts, Dragonborn DLC offers new armor and weapon sets, such as Nordic and Stalrim armor, and weapons. There are new spells to use as well, such as Whirlwind Cloak, which gives you a wind barrier that can fling your targets if they get close to you. You can also make your own staves, which was something that was never introduced when the game came out. The scenery and landscape, just like base game, is also very beautiful. It uses a lot of tint colors of red and orange. The soundtrack uses the soundtrack from Morrowind, which was also composed by Jeremy Soule. I feel like it's Bethesda giving a little wink to the fans who played Morrowind. Just like Dawnguard, where you can explore the realm Solcairn, Dragonborn has that being Apocrypha, where you'll meet Hermaeus Mora again, played by good old Wes Johnson. Hermaeus Mora in this game gets more dialogue that feels unsettling with the voice acting by Wes Johnson. Oh yeah, and also it puts people to sleep.
You will serve me, willing or not. All who seek after the secrets of the world are my servants.
Aside from Hermaeus, Apocrypha is terrifying. It is a realm filled with millions of books, a sky that is plagued with tentacles, acidic waters, and areas where darkness can hurt you unless if you have a source of light, kinda like in Alan Wake. The game throws in some Daedric artifacts known as Black Books. These books will give you access to abilities that you can unlock. They're very helpful and fun to use. Dragonborn also has a lot more creatures to fight, such as ash spawns, Reeklings, werebears, as well as a new Draugr type known as a hulking Draugr. In Apocrypha, however, there are the Seekers and Lurkers. The Seekers make probably the most unsettling noises I've heard in a video game. Oh, wait, second most unsettling. Whoever Bethesda made those sound effects, props to you, man. The Lurkers are also unsettling in terms of creature design, like tentacles coming out of their mouths, like Jesus Christ. Dragonborn also has some unique weapons to play around with, one of them being the Bloodscowl sword. It's a very interesting sword because a strong swing will create an energy wave. Depending on the animation, you can create a vertical or a horizontal wave. Dragonborn introduces Freya, played by Ellie Newlands. She becomes a follower after you finish the main questline. I really like her as a follower. She's a very strong companion, and the voice acting is just beautiful. Oh yeah, you can also have Dwarven robot followers. Fuck yeah. The Mirak boss fight is also good. The arena is nicely done, taking place on a summit in Apocrypha. It gives you that feeling that both you and Mirak's strengths are being put to the test. Finally, the Ebony Warrior. This fellow shows up when you're level 80 or higher. He exists just to test your strength, because you probably spent a lot of time and effort into playing Skyrim. What a great way to end things. Well, that is all I have to say for DLCs. I can't really put a finger on which one is the best out of them all. They're all great in some way, shape, or form. Dawnguard giving you a choice on which side you want to partake, similar to the Civil War questline, Hearthstone letting you build a house, or Dragonborn giving you a new land to explore. At the end of the day, a DLC's game can make or break a game's replayability. Let's wrap things up with a conclusion, shall we? Overall, Skyrim is still a fun game to play. While flawed in some places such as glitches, voice acting, and animations, it's a game that I still love coming back to from time to time. There's just a lot of things to do in Skyrim, plus DLCs and modding helps the game add more replayability. I give the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim 9 blue studs. I honestly don't know if it's just my nostalgic thoughts taking over me, because I know there are a lot of flaws in this game, such as loading screens that take a long time, bugs, bad audio sync, Creation Club and paid mods being a thing, Skyrim being milked to death despite those last two not being an actual problem to the game. Regardless, I can still play the game. I can still have a fun experience with it. Hell, even few of the bugs are fun. I honestly hope that Skyrim Anniversary Edition is the final send-off to the game, because everyone wants Elder Scrolls 6. I want Elder Scrolls 6. It's been announced, confirmed, and in development. Hell, they're putting in Shirley the Skyrim Grandma in the game, which is still the most heartwarming thing Bethesda has ever done. So let's hope that Elder Scrolls 6 will be a great game. However, at the end of the day, Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls 6 will never be great as Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. Because Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is the greatest game ever made. Eat your fucking heart out, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So those were my thoughts on Skyrim. What are your thoughts on the game? Do you agree with what I have to say about it, or do you have different opinions? Share me your thoughts below. I'm sure I missed something that you wanted me to talk about. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to like, subscribe, share me feedback on how I can improve future videos, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.